This is the 6th edition of News Central TV, broadcasting live from our studios in Abuja. I am Neota Egbe. Our top stories at this hour. Senate constitutes 7-man ad hoc committee to harmonize position on Electoral Act amendment. Court grants bill to anti-demolition protest organizers in Lagos. Passenger flights cancelled between Addis Ababa and northern Tigray over security concerns. Details in a moment. The Senate has set up a 7-member ad hoc committee to harmonize positions on the proposed amendments to the Electoral Act. The move followed a closed-door session on Thursday where lawmakers reviewed the findings of the Committee on Electoral Matters. The panel will distill senators' contributions into a single position before the bill goes to the formal debate. This comes after the committee report was circulated on Wednesday, giving the lawmakers time to study the legal implications of the appeal and reenactment bill. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters, Adeni Adegbomire, will lead the team. It has between 48 hours and 3 days to complete its work and report back to plenary. Other members are Ademo Alero, Aminu Tambuwal, Adams Oshomole, Danjuma Goje, Tony Nwoye, and Titus Zam. Clerk of the Senate, Emmanuel Ojo, will serve as clerk of the committee. The Senate has adjourned plenary to Tuesday, February the 3rd. The ad hoc committee is expected to present its harmonized report on the next legislative day, paving the way for clause-by-clause considerations of the electoral reform bill. Well, being joined by my colleague, Sagir Ibrahim, who was at the Senate today. Sagir, tell us what went down.
Well, good evening, Nyota. So it was a waiting game today for most of us Senate correspondents at the National Assembly, of course, because of the fact that the moment the senators came into the chambers and proceedings started, they went after, of course, the preliminaries into a closed-door session that lasted more than 3 hours and 30 minutes, of course, to deliberate upon critical conversations around the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. You recall that they were expected to deliberate upon the report meant to be submitted by the chairman of the committee, that's Senator Simon Lalong, but sadly he wasn't on the floor of plenary on Wednesday. Today, we didn't cite him. I personally didn't cite him on the floor of plenary as well. But then they went into that closed-door session, which lasted for more than 3 hours and 30 minutes. And after that closed-door session, for another 10-15 minutes, the Senate President addressed, member of plenary and, of course, those of us who were observing plenary to mention that they are deliberated upon the matter. The sensitivity of the matter is something that they do not take lightly. And because of that, they would be, in his words, creating a small group, a small committee that would galvanize the position and, of course, distill the position of lawmakers into one document with a timeline of between 48 hours and 3 days. 3 days. That's 2 days and 3 days. And of course, to report these findings, the collated findings, to plenary on the next legislative day. Expectation, of course, is that when this is presented, they will then go ahead for the clause-by-clause review of the provisions of the report, and hopefully we'll see.
So if you can hear me, if you can hear me, I do know that the Senate President is a lawyer, so he understands his English and grammar very well. So distilling and aggregating, but one would have thought that the executive session, or the closed-door session, which was what was promised in the last plenary day, was going to also focus or look at that matter of the situation in Sokoto, the bombing in Sokoto. I thought that was what he had promised at the last plenary.
As a matter of fact, Nyota, we were expecting to hear some updates with regards to that matter. In fact, he had himself mentioned, on the last legislative day, that's Wednesday, that the point of order raised by Senator Ahmed Ningi, who had, of course, brought that to the fore, was noted, and he mentioned that that matter was also supposed to be deliberated today during a closed-door session itself. We're expecting that these were supposed to form the conversations that was going to be had, during that closed-door session, the Electoral Act amendment, pari passu with this matter regarding the USS strike on December 25th being Christmas Day. But then they came out, and the update that we got in the less than 15 minutes of conversation address that he gave to us during the final hours of our plenary today was just solely on the Electoral Act amendment, with nothing mentioned particularly on the USS strike and whether any deliberation has been made. The expectation now, of course, today is the last day of plenary in the week. Tuesday next week, the 3rd of February, is supposed to be the next legislative day. Our expectation is that maybe they would have this conversation again so that Nigerians, get the much needed update as regards to what really went down, because the matter is really, really, really a matter of concern, and not just to the lawmaker, but to many lawmakers who, of course, are angry at the fact that, the National Assembly is an arm of government, and it shouldn't have been, left aside and not informed about what went down.
So, just before I let you go, it appears this ad hoc committee was not the only ad hoc committee that was set up. There was another ad hoc committee that was set up to look at real project.
Yes, indeed. That ad hoc committee was set up, of course, following another point of order raised by same lawmaker, Senator Ningi, but this time about developments, particularly around the rail line, the Kaduna rail line, and the deplorable state, of that rail line. He had complained about poor service delivery, decayed infrastructure, among many other reasons that he has stated, calling for immediate focus and investigation into a holistic investigation into Nigeria's rail architecture. And of course, Senator Adams Oshomole was made the chairman of that ad hoc committee among several other members, including himself and Senator Adamu Alero, to ensure that they bring the much needed literature and knowledge, about Nigeria's rail architecture, and of course, to bring it to a conclusive end.
All right. Thank you very much, Sagir. Thank you.
Pleasure.
But also, we're now being joined for this particular matter of the Senate and the Electoral Act by a legal practitioner, Jide Ologun, who joins us from our studios in Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ologun.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
This matter of the Electoral Act, the Senate has set up an ad hoc committee when a lot of Nigerians were hoping that what we'll be hearing is a clause-by-clause debate today, and maybe we'll continue next week and then eventually to be passed so that we can get a new Electoral Act and get ready for the next elections, which is just less than, some will say less than 14 months away, the next elections. But what do you think about this seeming stalling tactics?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. I think it may be in the tradition of the National Assembly, particularly when it comes to electoral matter. You recall that the last major amendment that we had in respect of that law took many years before it saw the light of the day. And from what we have read, even some of those in the committee, in the majority, are saying no to this electronic transmission of results. Why just one of them is conceding to it and one was not even present. So by and large, the politicians, and of course, for those who are in the National Assembly, generally may want to look at how this will affect their political fortune at the expense of what we have in Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that states clearly that the National Assembly is mandated to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good governance in Nigeria. Because if you look at the Section 52, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, it's about this transmission, and then whether NCC should be the one or the latitude given to INEC. And some of us have argued that if you don't make these things mandatory, INEC will exercise that liberal approach.
Use its discretion
of managing the elections.
Yeah.
Like, with IT glitch and all those things. And so the laws must be firm enough. And I understand that now, again, the law is being amended to make these vote buyings and some electoral malpractices very, very unprofitable for those who want to embark on them. Because if you don't have such strict laws, politicians will continue to hijack the process to their own benefits.
So why then do you think the lawmakers appear to be delaying on this? Is it that they've forgotten what the Constitution says, the mandate they have to enact laws for the peace and prosperity of the nation? But it looks as if they are doing it for themselves, no longer about the nation.
You know, I think it's about the macro environment we have in terms of governance in Nigeria. Don't forget that being in the political circle has become more like a highly profitable business. And so they also want to evaluate that these laws we are making, how will it affect us, either negatively or positively? Look at a particular clause in the amended Electoral Act that stipulates that if you want to come and be actively involved during the primaries, you must concede your political appointment.
Yeah.
And that is what some of the politicians out of office, in the person of Dr. Chris Ngige and Amechi, who had to leave office to come and contest during the primaries. So such are the laws that affect them. So we have not come to the point where the national interest overrides the personal interest of the politicians, and that may be some of the issues responsible for the delay and not giving a zealous approach. Recall again, at the time, somebody came up with an attempt to push a bill that all eligible voters must vote in Nigeria, but we kicked back to ask the question. If you are telling us it happens in Australia and Germany and some other places around the world, like about 20 countries, is it the same conditions offered the citizens there that we have in Nigeria? If we have apathy in Nigeria, address the background reasons for the apathy and not to compel people to vote. You must generate that environment of patriotism. So those are the issues. I think by and large, they have to consider their career interests, because some of us perceive these political activities as career. Like some people have said that we have professional politicians and we have professional politics.
You see,
so if it's very important to them, they will give it the speed it deserves. But if it's not, don't forget that year 2027 is around the corner.
Yeah.
So they may not want to make any laws that will de-enfranchise them. So we have not come to the point where national interest is on the front burner, and that is the opinion I hold concerning this.
No, Mr. Logan, before we let you go, thinking of how to put this so that I don't get into trouble, but what do you think about enacting laws that would ensure national interest is put ahead of anything personal? Do you think our legislators will get to that point, or even begin to consider national interest, even if some will say the leadership or, well, the executive hasn't exactly given Nigeria a national vision? Do you think our legislators could consider setting something that could be described as a national vision for the country via legislation?
If that is done, they will even have more peace than they have right now. Why will a deputy prime minister resign in the UK for filing stamp duties lower than what she could have filed on a property she purchased? Because there is no difference, so to speak, between you as a parliamentarian and the citizen of the UK. The basic amenities are there for everyone to enjoy. You saw what happened to to protect that interest. And if you look at Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it has stated it clearly that our resources should be managed in a way that we have a self-reliant economy, an economy that is dynamic and makes provision for the maximum welfare, maximum happiness of all citizens, and does not concentrate wealth in the hands of a few. So maybe when we get to that point, then we can say we have national interest. But for now, we don't have it. I use the democracy of Switzerland as an example. There are three basic levels: the federal level, the state level, and the canton. And on major projects, for instance, all must vote in support before that project is implemented. So if the federal votes for it, the state votes, and the canton, which is the lowest, vote against it, that project won't fly. That is why in Switzerland, for instance, you may have about 13 elections within 5 years, because the interests of the people design and come into policies that are formulated and implemented in that economy. Perhaps that is why it is a prosperous economy for majority. So we need to come to the point where governance system is directed at creating commonwealth for common good and not wealth for a few. All right. And so it's a dream we all have. But like I said, when we get to that point, even the politicians, we have less stress. Can you imagine that our electoral processes are driven by performance? Then who needs to be spending billions? True. Bribing people, buying votes, true, giving out substance during elections. You calm down. We have witnessed elections in the US and some parts of the world. They don't have time for all those. So I advise the politicians that national interest will help you regulate your blood pressure. If you don't put national interest first, you'll be running helter-skelter. Okay. Thank you so much. The ring of politics.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jide Ologun is a legal practitioner and he joined us from our legal studios. Thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us.
God bless Nigeria.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, here's our top stories at this hour. Nigeria's Senate constitutes 7-man ad hoc committee to harmonize positions on Electoral Act amendment. Court grants bail to anti-demolition protest organizers in Lagos. Passenger flights cancelled between Addis Ababa and Northern Tigray over security concerns. Nigeria's 2026 appropriation bill of about 58.472 trillion naira, recently presented to a joint session of the National Assembly by President Bola Tinubu, has passed the second reading in the House of Representatives. This followed lawmakers' agreement to suspend further deliberations at the committee level and pass the budget in whole. The House then adjourned plenary session for 2 weeks to dedicate time for the defense of the budget by government ministries, departments, and agencies.
If you look at the budget breakdown, I won't bore you with all the details. The government has prioritized security and defense, which borders all of us. And what my dear sister, Honorable Khadija, just presented is anchored on the problem of food insecurity caused mostly by general insecurity in the land, with 5.41 trillion of the budget. Infrastructure, which we all suffer from, at 3.56 trillion. Education, 3.54 trillion. Health at 2.48 trillion. Other areas follow. Agric, police affairs.
You all know that 70% of this budget we are talking about has already been debated earlier in 2025. So there is very little that is new. So if we are comfortable with the professorial introduction of this budget, we can go ahead and put the question. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it.
Well, staying in the House of Representatives, President Bola Tinubu has transmitted a request to the House seeking approval to expand the number of federal High Court justices by 20 and that of the Court of Appeal by 40 in a bid to strengthen their capacity and reduce the delay in the administration of justice. This follows 3 letters transmitted to the House and read by the Speaker, where the President requested the House to consider the Federal High Court Bill 2025, the Court of Appeal Bill of 2026, and the passage of over 20 health bills. Now, I'm being joined in the studio by legal practitioners. I'm now being surrounded by lawyers. I have one in the studio here with me, Maxwell Opara, here in the studio. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And joining us from our newsroom is Michael Amosun, also a legal practitioner. Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me start with you, Michael, since you're in the midst of journalists in the newsroom. This matter of the president requesting that the High Court judges be increased and the Court of Appeal justices be increased. How does that make you feel? You think it will make any difference?
Oh, yes, I think so, by our standard, because this Superior Court has a lot of caseloads. So increasing the number of judges, of course, would address the issue of dockets of courts getting filled up. Myself, for example, one of my cases this week was we stagger assigned because the judge was elevated. So if we have more judges, for example, added to the number we have in the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, I think it does a lot to reduce the caseload that we have both on those courts.
Well, let me come to you, Maxwell. Okay, let's just say the House of Representatives agrees or signs off on this. I mean, we've not had them deny the president any request so far, the National Assembly generally. But let's just say they agree to this. Do you think it would deter because some judges deliberately, even though they tend to blame the lawyers, would you think it would fast track the execution or the prosecution of cases?
Yes, of course. Just like my colleague said, I want the president to extend it to Supreme Court. Let them amend the Constitution, because the Constitution says 21. And I'm telling you, I was in Supreme Court, that was in October last year. And my matter was adjourned in November 2028.
Why?
And I was even told that I was even lucky, because some we are giving 2029, so we're giving 2030.
I understand that there are too many cases at the Supreme Court.
Yes.
But is it every case that's supposed to get to the Supreme Court?
I love that. We have written series of, I've written about 2 memo. NBA have written. There are some matters, my brother, that you are having a chieftaincy affair from your distance. What does that have to do with the Supreme Court? A husband and wife is fighting from customary court. He will travel from customary court up to Supreme Court. So a lot of issues. Supreme Court should be something that has to do with constitutional matters. And you discover that constitutional matters are giving back seat. Like the issue of tenure elongation of IG. I filed that matter. That was 2 years ago at Federal High Court, saying that this present IG, the president will have no right to extend the matter. Nobody has given me a date, and he's about to finish his tenure. So it requires, especially Abuja jurisdiction, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, all those serious, who have a lot of litigation matters. They should deploy more judges in those areas. It's a welcome development. Like in Court of Appeal, I think my secretary told me all my matters in Court of Appeal are about 26 of them. Court of Appeal, no date. Nobody's giving us date. I've been reading. They say that they will give us. They want to constitute a special panel, just like that. And litigators are dying. So it's a welcome development.
So let me come back to you, Michael. So we see now that the president is requesting for an additional 20, or to expand the number of Federal High Court justices by 20, an additional 20 justices in the Federal High Court, and then he's asking that of the Supreme Court be increased by 40. So that means we'd have more judges to handle the different matters. Would that also mean that we'd have more courtrooms built? Would that help in any way? Would that also cause a change in the legal calendar in Nigeria?
So ordinarily, like you said, it's going to have a ripple effect across board, because both the Court of Appeal and the Federal High Court, because, for example, the Federal High Court has not been added since 2009. 2009, there was an increment, and this is 17 years after now. A lot has happened in 17 years. So, of course, this particular change, for example, now would also affect the number of courts, because the courts available may not be enough for what we have. And those ones that exist before will have more judgment. That we go to court sometimes and judges not available, because either they are elevated, either they are sick or they're tired. A lot of things. Judges are also retiring. So it's going to have a ripple effect. And I also believe that it's going one after the other. First, we saw that there's a 300% increase in remuneration of judges. That's a welcome development. Now that we are seeing that there are now recommendations to have more judges sit on both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, I think it's a welcome, and it's going to have a ripple effect because for all these things, there are logistical implications. And it's going to also take effect in those areas too. I believe so.
Okay, so gentlemen, if you don't mind, there is a story here that's broke in Lagos. I'm going to take that story and then I'll bring it down here because you mentioned the matter of kind of cases that are taken to the courts. Let's see if we can get some answers as regards this particular one. Two organizers of Wednesday's anti-demolition protest in Lagos, Taiwo Hassan and Dele Frank, were granted bail by a Yaba magistrate court after being arraigned by the police. The magistrate AIO Alaka granted the defendants bail in the sum of 200,000 naira each, with two sureties in like sum. The court adjourned the case to March 11, 2026, pending the perfection of the bail. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, however, appealed to the court to allow the defendants return on Thursday, January 30, to perfect their bail. The request was granted following an undertaking by the counsel. Now, Maxwell, this I thought to bring this up here when you talked about the matter of the kind of cases that get to the different levels of the different courts, a matter of jurisdiction of cases. I mean, there was a case that got to the Supreme Court, a land matter. If two families were fighting over a landed property, and that got all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was finally adjudicated after 20 years. Now, you have cases. This one here, this protest case is in Lagos and is at the magistrate court. So who determines what goes up to what level of court?
It's the law.
The law.
Yes, the law says that any matter, you can handle any matter, apart from election petition matters that said it will get to Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal will have the final decision. Any other matter, as far as our constitution is concerned, can travel to Supreme Court, from customary court to Supreme Court, from magistrate court to FCT High Court to Court of Appeal up to Supreme Court. So, but what we are saying, just like you said, you can see an issue that has to do with a chieftaincy affair. What is chieftaincy affair doing in Supreme Court? Issue that has to do with matrimonial matters, husband and wife, that they started in probably if it's Islamic marriage, started in Sharia court. If it's a marriage under native land custom, started in the customary court. What does it has to do with the Supreme Court? Issue of you stole my goat, you stole my goat, I stole your fish. That's what does it have to do with the Supreme Court? We are making mockery of our judicial. It's the Constitution, it's the law. So if our law is being amended, just like we have submitted a memo, that these particular matters, they will start from customary court and end in High Court. This one will start from Sharia court and end in Sharia court of appeal. This one will start in this. So that any matter that is going to Supreme Court, this is a matter you would like to know what will be the outcome. And when the Supreme Court is sitting, everybody would like to hear what the Supreme Court is want to say about that particular
We'll take
issue.
a quick break and we'll come back to tidy up on this matter. Please don't go away. Welcome back. We still have two lawyers in the studio and in our newsroom. We have Michael Amosun joining us from the newsroom and Max Olabara here in the studio. Let me, as we wind down here, Michael, let me come to you. What would you say should be the amendments that would happen, and how quickly do you want that amendment? I know that the National Assembly will say they are swamped. They are working on the budget, 2026 budget. They have constitutional amendment issues, especially the Electoral Act to look at, and now you're wanting to pile on a request for an amendment to what kind of cases get up to what level, to what jurisdiction as far as our courts are concerned. So what advice would you be giving the National Assembly if you needed to do so?
Okay, so first off is the issue of the congesting matter that goes to the Supreme Court. I think that we need to look into this area very seriously. Not every matter should go there. We need to now explore both traditional justice system or we use the alternative dispute resolution too. We know that ADR is a bit expensive, but we should also empower traditional institutions to even take up matters. Secondly, I think another thing the National Assembly should look into is ACJA, the Adjourning of Criminal Justice Act. It's been before the House, before an amendment. It should fast track it. Some of us have raised issue that the ACJA ought to address, since we've seen that the ACJA, when it came, was a silver bullet, address very many issues, including detention, arbitrary detention, incarceration. If we could have some of the things that we've recommended to bodies like the Admission of Criminal Justice Monitoring Committee and many other bodies that are also monitoring the compliance of ACJA, it will help also very well to tackle, particularly as it concerns criminal justice system.
All right, thank you very much, Maxwell.
Yes, just like what he said is as simple as anything. There are some matters that we know that's not supposed to go to even Court of Appeal. They should start and end in High Court. We have listed them. There are some matters that are supposed to end in Court of Appeal. They don't have any business coming to a Supreme Court. And there are some matters that Supreme Court should have original jurisdiction and appellate jurisdiction from Court of Appeal. Just like in a National Industrial Court. It's not every matter that goes to National Industrial Court. It's only labor-related matters. And they said that those matters, there are some matters that you cannot appeal without leave of National Industrial Court, leave of the court. Court will say, okay, come and appeal. There are some issues. So
within the National Industrial Court, you can appeal within the Industrial Court?
No, you appeal in the Court of Appeal.
Okay.
But you cannot go straight. You must seek leave of Court of Appeal first. Court of Appeal, please, I want to appeal against this matter. Court of Appeal will look at it. Is it the matter that you're supposed to? They cannot grant you the leave. When they don't, if they do not grant you the leave, the matter will end there. So these are the issues. We have written memo to the CJN, to Attorney General, to the National
So real
Assembly.
quick, so that request, I mean real quick here now, that request to set up an electoral court, electoral offences court will also make things easier.
Of course. I hear them saying, just like my colleague said. And there are some matters criminal matters that are not supposed to even go to Court of Appeal. When Magistrate Court arraign you, decide, you go to court, High Court, and High Court, especially those ones that has to do with simple offences. What does that have to do with Court of Appeal, Supreme Court? So these are the issues that should be looked at. And moreover, we are talking about one thing is to appoint judges. Another thing is to make provision their budget. Because when you appoint judges, they should have their car, they should have their orderly, they should have their housing, they should have other things. Like in FCT High Court, in FCT Federal High Court here now, FCT Federal High Court is using the same building with the headquarters. It's not supposed to be so. So these are the issues.
All right, thank you very much, Michael Amosun, a legal practitioner, and Max Odopara, who came in this evening to share their thoughts. So thank you for sharing your legal minds with the world. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
Imo State has recorded its highest internally generated revenue since creation. The State's Internal Revenue Service says the milestone was achieved in 2025 through sustained reforms, digitalization, and improved taxpayer compliance. News Central's Alex Obunaya reports.
The year 2025 has gone down in history as a turning point for revenue generation in Imo State. Under the directive of Governor Hope Uzodinma, the state recorded an unprecedented internally generated revenue performance. Figures released by the Imo State Internal Revenue Service show that revenue collection began the year at over 3.5 billion naira in January and steadily increased to more than 4.5 billion naira by December. This consistent month-on-month growth culminated in a total revenue of over 43 billion naira in 2025, exceeding the budgeted target of 42 billion naira.
The revenue generated reached an all-time high, surpassing all previous records since the creation of Imo State. The year recorded consistent month-on-month growth, demonstrating the effectiveness of policy reforms, digital platforms, taxpayer awareness, stakeholder engagement, and disciplined revenue enforcement.
The revenue target for 2026, as approved by the Imo State House of Assembly, is over 281 billion naira. That is over 23.4 billion on monthly basis.
According to the service, the achievement was largely driven by the state government's investment in technology-driven revenue systems, which replaced manual processes and enhanced transparency. The digital platforms now enable real-time monitoring, secure tax payment, and improve taxpayer engagement across the state.
It cuts across all MDAs because we are sole collectors for all MDAs in Imo State. A lot of things contributed to the geometrical rise in IGR that Imo State made. And basically, it can be summed up around technology.
For the first time in the state's history, several months crossed major revenue threshold, with December 2025 recording the highest monthly IGR ever achieved. Government officials say the improved revenue capacity will translate into increased funding for infrastructure, social services, and other development projects across the state. They add that the milestone has strengthened public confidence and reaffirmed the administration's commitment to transparent and accountable governance. In Imo for News Central, Alex Obunaya.
At least 2 civilians were reportedly killed and several others injured when a military helicopter allegedly opened fire on Kurgi community in Mariga local government area of Niger State on January the 25th. The incident occurred during wider military operations across Niger and Kwara State aimed at curbing rising criminal and terrorist activity. In a statement from Abuja, the Nigerian Air Force confirmed it is investigating the reported civilian casualties. Signed by Air Commodore Ehimen Jodame, the statement said a civilian harm investigation team has been activated to ensure accountability and the protection of non-combatant during operations. Now, Nigeria's military air strategy has evolved to fight insurgency, but the gap between technology and ground intelligence has caused hundreds of accidental civilian deaths over the last 2 decades. In 2005, a Nigerian Air Force jet mistakenly bombed Dobi village during a routine training exercise. This early tragedy exposed critical coordination flaws within military aviation protocols. In 2017, Iran bombing remains a catastrophic failure where an Alpha jet struck an IDP camp. Over 115 civilians and humanitarian workers were killed in the blast. In a 2021 friendly fire incident, a military jet mistakenly bombed a friendly convoy in Minok. The strike killed over 20 soldiers battling insurgents on the ground. A 2023 drone strike in Tudumbiri killed roughly 120 civilians celebrating a religious festival. This tragedy sparked a fierce national debate over military drone oversight and accountability. In 2025, a drone strike targeting bandits hit the Giwa local market. Instead, the error resulted in 25 civilian deaths, further straining relations between military and the locals. Now, what are the causes of these accidental airstrikes? Intelligence failures occur when analysts misinterpret social gatherings as insurgent activities, relying on outdated data and misidentifying motorcycles used by locals often leads to strikes on innocent civilians. Technical loopholes, including poor equipment calibration and double-tap bombing, escalate casualties. Without clear ground markings for safe zones, precision strikes frequently drift into populated areas with tragic consequences. Structural challenges like interagency rivalry and intelligence silos prevent vital data sharing. Under high-pressure environment, human error and rushed decision-making often bypass critical safety protocols before deployment. Aside as that, maybe let's move on and look at some other things. The Department of State Services has closed its case following the presentation of witnesses in the ongoing trial of alleged terrorist negotiator Tukur Mamu. The counsel to the DSS, David Kaswe, made this submission to the trial judge, Justice Mohammed Umar, at the Federal High Court in Abuja, thus opening the way for the defense team to commence their defense. The DSS had cross-examined several witnesses and informed the court that some of the rescued victims of the 2022 Abuja Kaduna train attack had lodged complaints against the alleged terrorist negotiator Tukur Mamu. While the defense counsel and senior advocate of Nigeria, Usman, questioned some of the witnesses, asking if they were interviewed by the DSS in the presence of Mamu, he however urged the court to set a date so that the defense team can begin their defense. The case was then adjourned to April the 23rd for Mamu to open his defense. The Nigeria Police Force has pledged to strengthen ties with mortgage partners to address long-standing housing challenges affecting its personnel. Speaking during a courtesy visit by the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police commended the bank for promoting affordable housing for Nigerians and assured the police force's support for all initiatives aimed at improving the welfare of the officers.
We appreciate what you are doing. I want to assure you of our commitment to supporting all initiatives that will improve the welfare of our officers. Welfare and security are closely linked, and we in Nigerian police, we believe that institutional partnership like the one the Nigerian police is having with the Federal Mortgage Bank is very crucial, and it contributes significantly to national development.
We are proud of the milestones we have jointly recorded in improving access to decent and affordable housing for members of the Nigerian Police Force. Specifically, sir, the bank has advanced NHM individual mortgage loans to officers and men of the Nigerian Police Force for the acquisition of houses in estates developed by the Nigerian Police across several states of the Federation, including Abuja, Lagos, Kaduna, Katsina, Enugu, Benin, Yola, and others.
We'll go on a short break. When we return, we're looking at what civil society organizations are saying about the new tax law. Join us again for details. Several civil society organizations have called for a fair, transparent, and inclusive tax system that remains critical to reducing inequality, combating poverty, and financing sustainable development. This was during a dialogue in Abuja which examined the impact of taxation on the citizens and efforts towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. News Central's Aisha Salihu reports.
Against the backdrop of growing economic pressures and evolving fiscal policies, civil society organizations here are discussing the implications of the nation's new tax laws on social investment, service delivery, and the attainment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 3, 4, 6, and 10 by the year 2030. Participants say that fair, transparent, and inclusive tax systems remain critical to reducing inequality, combating poverty, and financing sustainable development.
Then we should redesign our budget to be able to speak to the real concerns of the people. So if education, for example, is a challenge, I want to see a budget design that speaks to education. If infrastructure is a challenge, for instance, we expect people to file their returns on a daily basis, but they live practically in places where you don't have national grid, so how are they going to get power? And some of them also live in places where you don't have bank, so how do you include them into the banking system? And if they can't go to bank, how do they also file what they have sold?
More money for us now, but distribution of allocation and on a prioritized project and program based on need assessments. But we must understand one thing. This new law favors the masses.
Discussions also highlighted the role of civil society in promoting tax compliance, creating awareness, engaging policymakers, and amplifying citizens' voices in fiscal decision-making processes.
For a society that is largely hungry, how much can you provide for that society to bring that society out of hunger? Except we all see an upward movement from the government and also from the people. And that's where it becomes really of necessity to see our economy grow, to see the tax net widen enough to ensure that the revenue of the system is improved.
So the delivery of the message should be understandable, credible, and properly designed to suit the populations that are being addressed.
It's good getting the money, but after getting the money, what do you use it for? It doesn't get to the downtrodden, for the FDG goal they are talking about. So we must follow it up. And if by any means the government is not following up, we tell the Nigeria what is happening. We engage them.
Many of them pledged to strengthen advocacy, research, and public awareness on taxation and development, calling for policies that place people at the center of economic growth. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
I'm now being joined by Akinloye Oyeni, legislative consultant and public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us, Akinloye.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
You were here some time back,
yes,
and we were talking about the flaws in the NTA,
yes,
that's the new tax act.
Yes.
Now we are having an issue here as regards the tax law,
yes,
and the SDGs 2030.
Yes.
inclusivity is one of the SDGs.
Yes.
This tax law, some people are already feeling excluded because of these new tax laws. Now, so I ask you a question. How quickly can an amendment be made on a law that has just been passed?
It depends on the people who are excluded. You know, this our tax law before, it was not as it didn't
as robust
as this. Now we have brought in enough more people into the tax this thing. And again, we have the law has exempted a large number of people who are maybe minimum wage earners, small businesses, and then it has exempted them not paying tax. And new companies were given, especially agricultural companies, were given 5 years before they start paying tax. You understand? So, you know, like society is dynamic, laws too are dynamic. So as we continue, as the laws are evolving, society is evolving, laws too will be evolving. So more people will be captured with this thing. And going back to your question, maybe let's say in a week. Okay. Maybe in a week, it depends. In a week, when the bill comes in, they will clean up the bill, they do scrutiny, then it goes for first reading, the reading by the clerk of the house or the Senate. After the reading, they move motion for second reading. It will go for second reading. After the second reading, they will do the public hearing and the committee will do the report.
Hold on.
Yes.
Right now, you've had enough hearing from the public, so to speak. I mean, a lot of complaints.
Comments from the public.
Okay.
Yes.
The public hearing that's usually organized.
Yes.
Now, this might sound to some people who are very intelligent as mundane, right?
Yes.
But the public hearing that is organized, is it not to get the comments of the people again?
Yes. There will be...
why do we need to spend money, taxpayers' money, to organize public hearings when each of the lawmakers has at least 2 aides that can sit down and document the comment of the Nigerian citizens so that when they sit, they can lay out.
Whatever those aides we document will only form part of the debate. The legislature will contribute when the report of the committee is being laid at the plenary.
Okay.
Public hearing or whatever we are saying outside is not part of public hearing. It can only educate, it can only keep us abreast, and
it is considered not part of the public
because
hearing.
At the public hearing, invitations will be sent out, and it will be noted. There will be attendance, and each comment made by each person, people that didn't make comment, it will also be there that did not make comment, because it will come out. You know, when you are doing, when you want to lay report of the public hearing, there will be the existing act will be like this. The second column.
Again, sorry, let me comment. You know that there is something called the Hansard, right?
Yes, Hansard. That's it. Yes, that's the history,
which is a record of everything that happens
in a particular law.
So, but right now, I tried to go through to check out the Hansard, the updated Hansard for Nigeria's National Assembly.
Yes.
And the moment I clicked on it, it crashed. It did not open. So, do we have anyone that is functional, that is updated and standard as regards these tax laws, that Nigerians can go back there and look at, okay, during the public hearing that that led to the passage of this law, this so and so number of people were there, this person, and this is what they said.
I actually wouldn't know. That will be left to National Assembly to answer. But personally, if I'm looking for any, maybe because I take part continuously in all this, so I normally have all these reports with me, even at the level of national public hearing. I have my report, I do this, and as a consultant, we consult for committees, we consult for legislators, we consult for MDAs. So we have some of these documents with us. So that is my own.
So I like the fact that I said in 1 week this can happen.
Yes, it can happen in 1 week.
Thank you so much. Akinle Oyeni is a legislative consultant and public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Passenger flights between Addis Ababa and northern Tigray have been cancelled as renewed fighting raises security concerns. Mekelle Airport officials confirmed staff were told not to report for duty, with no formal statement yet from the government. The cancellations follow clashes in western Tigray, where tensions over disputed territories threatened the 2022 peace agreement that ended a 2-year civil war. Authorities say territorial disputes will be resolved through constitutional means. That's 6th edition for today. We'd like to thank you for being with us. Remember, we'd like to hear from you. Send your eyewitness report or anything about you to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central TV live on all social media platforms as well. Also on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Neota Egbe.